Years ago, I blew the engine in my Murcielago. By the end of it, I had gotten 2 different motors for the car. It took tons of time, a very, very patient Greg, and collectively over $40,000 to finally fix and get running. Now, some of you may remember that story from back in the day, but what you don't know was the bit that I left out. Back then, we said it was a freak accident. It wasn't supposed to happen. Like, this is a very rare occurrence, but there was a reason. And I just conveniently left that out of the video because I didn't want to look bad. But today, I'm gonna finally tell the story. I'm gonna tell you why my motor really blew.
So, could it have been something I've done? I mean, there's a good chance of it.
Now, rightfully so, you might be thinking to yourself, you know, Jimbo, it's been a while, like what you been up to these days? Well, I'm excited to announce that I've recently launched my own online fitness coaching business called Train by Jimbo, where I help people get into the best shape of their lives within 90 to 180 days without giving up their favorite foods, without spending 5+ hours in the gym, give them all the tools they need to be successful, get the physique they want, and make it as convenient as possible. I know from my own experience that getting into fitness is extremely challenging, especially today when yes, everything is online, and yes, you could figure everything out yourself, but going down all the different rabbit holes, trying to figure out what you should be doing for your food, for your workouts, how often you should be working out, what supplements you should be taking, what pre-workouts are worthwhile, if any at all, and how that all applies to you, figuring that out is unbelievably difficult. My program is specifically created to help you skip past that first 6 to 8 months, even a year of just figuring things out in the gym, figuring things out nutrition-wise, so you can get started and start getting results immediately. So if you're interested at all getting towards your fitness goals, I can absolutely help. The link's in the description down below. If you want to book a call with me, we can talk about it, maybe get you started. But with that, let's talk about my Murcielago. Back in 2020, when I was doing Savage Garage, I had a 2004 Lamborghini Murcielago, and it was a handful right from the get-go.
I wonder why that's open. Pile of junk? She didn't feel like driving today.
How many motors do you have now?
More than I care to admit.
But if I'm being honest, I really didn't care because I love the car. I absolutely love the thing. And despite it letting us down over and over again and constantly needing a tow truck, Julian and I, the owner of Potomac Towing, we became very good friends because of this car, because that car was always on the back of his tow truck. But I didn't care because I loved the thing. I was having a great time. And again, I was making enough money that I could afford this stupid vehicle. But one faithful day, summer of 2020 in Miami, I had just come back from running an errand and the car started to overheat, like really bad.
Hey bud, what happened?
Car overheated. It blew a coolant line.
It was leaking fluid, it lost the power steering pump, it lost the front lift. And when I backed it in, I had no idea. Something broke. Something really bad broke. The belt looked shredded.
It just snapped the belt. So hopefully that's all. That's the only issue. I don't know.
I wish it was just the belt that had snapped back then. Little did I know, but that was the last time that car was going to start on that motor. I ended up having the car sent back up north to Loudoun County Exotics, and this is where Greg and his team found out that I had busted something connected to the crankshaft.
All the way down in here is the end of basically the snout or the end of the crankshaft, and the crank pulley goes over the crank and a bolt holds it in place, and that pulley drives the serpentine belt, which operates the alternator, the AC compressor, the power steering pump, and more importantly, the water pump.
Yes.
So that is what came apart and basically ate itself to pieces. Here's the crank pulley that came off the car. Bolt goes through there. Half of the bolt is still broken off inside the crankshaft. You see what used to be a keyway where a Woodruff key lied, and then there's a large chunk of metal there, and a large chunk of metal there. And that was part of the Woodruff key and part of the crankshaft that basically destroyed itself as the engine turned, and this didn't.
You were telling me about these motors. They're pretty tough motors.
They're pretty solid motors. This should have never happened. Something enacted to where that bolt broke and the crank pulley spun, and it wasn't good for anything.
Yeah. Do you have an idea of I mean, besides freak accidents, what might trigger something like that? Would it be like a wear thing, driving it hard kind of thing?
I mean, shock to the drivetrain can cause shock to the serpentine drive belt area.
So it was a freak accident. This doesn't happen on these motors. They're pretty strong. This shouldn't happen. The only thing that would cause this is a real big drivetrain shock. And I hadn't done anything like that. Right? Oh, there was a drivetrain shock, all right. Here's what it was. I didn't even include this on our main video because it was so embarrassing. It went up on our Clips channel, which no longer exists, but that's a story for another day. But back then, my fragile ego couldn't take it. We were at PBIR with Brooks from Drag Times, and I thought, for the sake of content, like, let's put the Murcielago up against the Tesla. It was the new Model Y. It had just come out. The Murcielago made about 100 horsepower more from the factory than the Model Y did, or at least the one Brooks had. So I thought maybe I had a shot.
$100. First of all, I know who's driving that. Brooks. Okay. Brooks is a way better driver on the track.
I'll put 50 on the truck. Brooks is winning. I don't disagree.
$100.
But I have 100 plus horsepower.
Yeah, it'll be in the dust. Here.
$100.
$100. Done.
Done.
Easiest 100 I've ever made. Thanks, bro.
We'll see.
Well, I was gonna give him a break off the line.
Nope.
I guess I can now if you guys are betting.
Nope.
Well, if you want to split that $100, you can give me a break off the line.
Hey, Jimbo, what year's your Mercy again?
100.
It says for an 03 they do 063.6, quarter mile 12.1.
That's a
Yeah,
big
if it was
race then.
brand new
Yeah, right, exactly.
and a race car driver was driving.
Yeah, but he's got the front wheels disconnected. It's gonna be a little faster.
Yeah.
And of course, we're ignoring the fact that the car I was driving, and I knew this, was as fragile as glass, and the risk versus reward here was absolutely terrible. There was no chance that the views this video was going to get would pay for anything that could have broken on that car during this. This was a terrible idea, but I was 21, and I was thirsty for content, and I thought I was invincible. So I figured, send it. So we lined up the cars, and I pull up to the burnout box, and I intentionally try to go around the water because I couldn't do a burnout in my E-Gear Murcielago. It just wasn't happening. My plan was, because I knew the old school Mercies, there was a way that you could launch them. If you put the thing in sport mode and you take the ESC, like the traction control systems, off, and the car is at a complete stop, and you mash it, it'll dump the clutch at like 4,000 RPM. It's how launches like this happen. Scary as shit. You should never do it. It's so bad for the car. It puts so much stress on the drivetrain. And as I said, it's just so damn scary because you have no warning whatsoever. But I was gonna do that. When the light turns green, mash it, hope for the best, and try to keep up with this Tesla. Oh my God, just hearing that wheel hop again, it's just, it's just so bad. Real quick, for those who are not familiar, wheel hop is not good for a car. It's when the wheels are getting traction and then losing traction, getting traction and then losing traction. And it puts a tremendous amount of strain on the drivetrain because the whole thing is getting traction, not, and it's just shaking the crap out of the axles, the differential, and everything. This is how people blow differentials. And it didn't help that I had R888s on the car, which is a fantastic tire for drag racing. When you put the power down, you gotta heat them up. And I didn't heat mine up at all because I couldn't. This did not go well. And a couple months later is when the car started overheating, pulling into my apartment complex, and the motor was cooked. So, as you can see, the timeline makes sense. If I had to put money on what broke my car, it was that drag strip pass that day. That is what caused that freak accident we talked about in that video with Greg.
Shock to the drivetrain can cause shock to the serpentine drive belt area. So
Could it have been something I've done? I mean, there's a good chance of it.
Now back then, I had really gotten tired of the whole Jimbo's broken Murcielago narrative. Like, it seemed like every single time we made a video specifically on the car, it was broken. It was almost like comic relief, and I just had gotten so tired of it. So when I made the video talking about what happened to the car, I left this out because I just didn't want to look stupid. I didn't want to look like a duh moment, like of course that's why you broke your car. I was just trying to make content that I thought would be entertaining for everybody to watch. Getting the car fixed took months. First, I got a motor that I thought was in really good condition, and turned out the motor had a crack in it, so I ended up having to send it back to the person who sent it to me, which took forever and a day. Then I had a shop up in New Jersey that told me they could fix the problem without completely getting another motor, so I had the entire broken-ass car pulled from Greg's shop, which he was very thrilled about, but I had the whole car pulled with the motor and the car separate, towed up to New Jersey, just for them to then tell me, dude, like, we can't touch this thing for months, and it's gonna be at least 100 hours of labor to rebuild your motor and cost way more. And I was like, okay, that's not what you told me on the phone at all, but okay. So then I pulled the car from their shop. The car and the motor had it towed back to Greg's shop. He took it back. God bless you, Greg. Still, like, I can't believe you did that. And the car came back with all of its parts completely disassembled, and by some miracle, everything was accounted for. Greg put a new motor in there that I paid $27,500 for, and I remember because it was so fucking expensive. They put that motor in the car, and the car ran great. And I remember the day that I finally started the car again and got to drive it. That was a big moment because it had been a very long time since I got to drive that car.
God, I miss this thing so much. Oh, I miss this thing. This thing needed brakes. I should have had brakes put on this. It did. It's okay, I don't care. You're just picking it up.
Oh my god, it sounds so good.
Oh my god. Thank you for fixing
No problem.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. It was so good. It was everything I remembered and more. It drove so much better. Definitely wish I remembered I had given you brakes. But that's okay. For next time.
But that's the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed. Be careful with your cars, especially if they're Italian and from the early 2000s. They don't like drag strips or wheel hop, for that matter. So with that, thank you for watching. Check the link in the description down below if you want to get in the best shape of your life. Book a call with me. Let's make it happen. But with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I could make a whole channel just off of how many times this car is broken. You know that? It's ridiculous. See, if I frame this just right, Julian, you can't tell it's on a truck. It looks like it's driving. Just gotta frame it just right. Frame it just right, and then it looks like it's driving down the road. And now we go past the last place it broke down. Remember that place, girl? Yup. I bet you do. I sure do. Or maybe it was here.
Actually, it was here because there was a curve after.
Yeah.